Hello there, you wonderful person. Today I'm sitting in the full blasting sun, so my face, I'm just kind of hiding away from it. But I thought I'm gonna take this moment to record a video for you to tell you a little bit about something that I did recently that I thought it's impossible for me, which is build a very, very long streak of doing a yoga session, 1 hour yoga session workout every single day for 235 days without skipping a single day. So this is something that, well, yeah, it seems like a lot of days, and it was quite an interesting process. And I would like to just give you some insights into how I went about it, and I hope it's gonna be useful. So I used my journal as a primary tool to help me throughout the process, and there's a few practices that I'm using that were a huge help. So one is the Minimalist Journaling System. So I'm gonna share with you how this all looks like. So those are my squares, and there's also some cards. That's another journaling tool that I'm using. But basically, this is kind of my analog dashboard that helps me maintain perspective, kind of macro perspective of my life and cultivate self-awareness. And I'm tracking my yoga practice, and this is where I hit day 200. This is the symbol I'm using for yoga. So, for example, you're gonna see here, that was 80. That's not actually 80th day, but it's practice number 80, because I was following 108 days of yoga practice. So I had a list of practices to do every day, so I made a little card so it's very easy for me to reference, and it just tells me which class I'm doing today. And I went through 2 cycles of this program, and this was just my prompting card. And this start date is really when I committed to do this practice every single day, but I actually started the streak, the 235-day streak, a bit earlier than that. But that was the day when I thought, okay, no, I'm committing to it. I'm really gonna take it as far as I can. And I guess here's the very interesting thing. So I didn't really set myself a goal of building a 30-day streak of yoga or 100 or 200, but I actually spent maybe a year of, being on and off with yoga. And sometimes I would do it for a month or more, but I would skip some days. Sometimes I would actually do it quite consistently for maybe 60 days, and I would stop for a month. So it was kind of on and off for some time, quite some time. And I've noticed that I was journaling about it throughout times, and it would just sometimes come to my awareness, and I would write down, and I still remember, it was like through numerous times in my life, over this year, maybe year and a half, I was writing that, wow, yoga is just so good, I feel so great when I do this. It's a perfect way for me to take care of my body and mind, and just kind of increases my focus, and just takes care of my physical being, which is great, and it's very effective. Just takes me 1 hour, so I don't need that much time, and it just kind of, I feel like I take care of everything I need to take care of. So this was coming up and surfacing more and more and more as I was journaling. So for that, I'm just using kind of a free flow journaling. So this is a page from today and day before. So just sometimes I write down some insights. This is a previous page, and this is my weekly review page, which is also a very important practice in my journal. And sometimes, right now, I'm actually building a new routine. This is a symbol I'm using, and I have some insights. So those kind of key insights were coming up all over again about yoga. And eventually it became very clear that this is something that's very important to me. And I think this is something maybe that we very often neglect when setting goals and we don't maybe dig enough, or I didn't used to dig as deep enough into why I actually want to do this. And this is very important, because if the motivation is not so intrinsic, if it's not that deep but more superficial, so for example, somebody just tells you, hey, you should do this practice because it's good for you, and you're thinking, yeah, maybe I should, it sounds good, but you don't really deeply feel like this is the thing for you, then what usually happened for me when I didn't really know why I'm doing something, the first day I'm hitting a very hard day, so either I really don't feel like doing something, or I'm very busy, or there's just things coming up, or there's just a significant obstacle for me to overcome to actually cultivate this habit, I would just give up most of the times. Not always, but most of the times. So and this is bound to happen. I mean, eventually, if you do something for long enough, there's gonna be a day when you either feel sick or tired or underslept, or you're just super busy. So this motivation is very, very important, and journaling is an amazing tool to dig deep into that. So how could you gain this perspective and gain the awareness of why you would like to embark on a long streak of a habit? Well, again, Minimalist Journaling System, for me, it's the cornerstone practice. And how I use it is I write down key events during the day. So, for example, taking handstand seriously. That was the day when I decided, okay, I'm actually going to start handstand practice, and I drew myself doing handstands, and I can't draw, so you can see that it's quite not ideal. But yeah, there's many different dates: tiredness, micro-solidarity, connection, and Rango. So I watched this film, I went to a workshop about micro-solidarity, and I felt connected, and I felt also tired. Sometimes it's a very specific thing, like calls, and I had those 3 calls that were kind of powerful. Sometimes it's just an idea, sometimes I'm feeling super tired, and that was kind of a predominant theme for the day. So I kind of get a very clear snapshot of my day. And there's also things that I'm tracking, which change over time depending what is important for me at that given time. So usually there's always sleep, so wake up time and the time I go to sleep. There's my diet. So for example, this day I've had some alcohol, I didn't fast, and I overate, and I had my supplements. So not ideal day. But my kind of default state is that I'm on a vegan diet, so that's pretty much it. If it's empty, this is my default. Here I had a coffee, so I'm kind of getting an easy idea of what actually happened, and over time I can track certain patterns. So I can notice that, okay, if I'm having 3 coffee in a week, that becomes too much for me, and I'm becoming tired, and then the next week kind of I go downhill, and I need to compensate for that tiredness, and maybe I compensate with overeating, which is actually what I do. So over time, as I'm writing down in my squares day by day, and it takes literally, well, up to a minute, I would say, even less, maybe even 30 seconds, but let's say conservatively 5 minutes a day, just to sit down, open your journal, reflect. But this becomes this kind of regular check-in with yourself, how you're feeling, what was this day about, what role does it play in your life. And this is incredible, because you're getting this moment, this ritual, when you're connecting with yourself on a deeper level, and you get a chance to actually feel if you're moving towards the direction you want, and what was the role of that particular day. And it really feels quite magic. And with time, what happens as you're tracking things and paying attention to things, and you notice how the things you track change over time. So for example, at first, when I was changing my diet radically, I was very meticulous about my diet, so I was tracking like really how many meals I've had and what I've had for which meal, this kind of thing. And right now it's just, was I vegan? Did I have coffee? Did I have alcohol? If I did, I mark a symbol. So it's changed. The same with workouts. Sometimes when I'm not that into very precise, meticulous routine building, I just maybe will not even track it at all, or just track like, hey, I did yoga that day. And some other days I might actually list very specific items. So for example, right now I'm building a new routine, so I'm actually tracking what kind of activities I did on a particular day. So when it comes to the physical activities, so for example, swimming, dancing, hiking, walking, running, what did I do in that day? And then I'm connecting this with all the other parts in my square. So how did I feel? What did I eat? And over time, again, I'm getting awareness of which practices really serve me over time, and what are the kind of necessary blocks that I want to include in my life, and what are the things that don't serve me anymore. And this is actually something very interesting that I maybe would like to mention, which is eventually I stopped my yoga streak, right? So I think it was last week that I broke the streak of 235 days, and I did this intentionally. So I actually chose that day that I'm not going to do yoga anymore. And this was a very, very interesting moment, because, well, first it was a bit challenging because of my ego. So I was feeling like, oh wow, I'm on this amazing streak. Should I just continue for the sake of doing it? Because, it's impressive, and I feel great because I can do it for such a long time. But on the other hand, I've realized that at this particular point of time, I was feeling very tired and low, and I needed more not to do anything. So not to have any habits or any practices to do. Also, it was my holiday, so it was kind of a perfect combination. And I had this call with a friend. I think I even wrote it down in my square, that the one thing that really I took from that call was that she mentioned she's going on holiday and she's not gonna do anything, like no practices, no habits, no nothing, unless she really feels like that on the day, but no commitments. And that really struck a chord with me, and it felt very right for me to do that. So I journaled about it, just in the kind of free flow journaling, if I want to quit my streak or not. And I checked with myself, what is my motivation? Am I just feeling lazy, or is it just hard? Or do I actually just need a break or need a change? And I realized that, yeah, this actually rings true, and I'm gonna stop it. And this was beautiful because it really let me, well, reassured me that I'm doing it for the right reasons. I'm not doing it for the streak, but I'm doing it because this practice serves me. And funnily enough, I'm now back to it. So I don't have a streak in mind. I'm not aiming to build 100 days of yoga or like be better than my previous streak. But I know that this practice really serves me, and I'm okay with sometimes stopping it when it doesn't, and I'm okay with experimenting. And this is what is kind of the most exciting and amazing part of journaling in general for me. And this is where this combination of journaling tools that I'm using really is shining. On one hand, the Minimalist Journaling System gives you this awareness and a macro perspective and a checking point every day with yourself, and it's so short and so easy that it's just so simple to do it, and it's visually stunning. Even if I'm really not talented at drawing, but I really like how my squares look like, and they give me lots of pleasure. And then sometimes some of my friends or students send me their squares, and I'm really inspired by how they look like, so you can really customize them to look however you want. Mine are aligned with the moon, as you can see, which I really like as well. So this is one tool for getting kind of macro perspective. Then there's just the regular free flow journaling, when I'm just processing my life and brainstorming ideas and building new routines. And sometimes, there we go, today I'm hitting 200 consecutive days of yoga practice, so that was a good day. I'm also using my journal for work, but it all goes back to the Minimalist Journaling System. And then there's my Minimalist Weekly Review, which is the kind of weekly planner slash to-do list slash review that I do on a weekly basis. And the combination of those tools is just magic. And okay, there's also cards, which are just kind of cues for myself. So for example, right now I'm building a new routine, and this was actually my monthly review, and the new routine is focused on those few principles. And the cards are just like pieces of cardboard I'm cutting away from boxes I don't need, so it's recycling. Or I list my goals for this year, so this is just very helpful. Or I have also kind of more beautiful cards that Sylvia made for me, which cue me to do a particular activity that I write in the back. So this is kind of just to show you the potential of journaling and how I went about the 200 days of yoga. Even last day I thought, okay, I'm just going to write it down on a little page, and probably at some point it's going to become an article, but for now I thought maybe it's useful to record a video for you guys. So I hope this is useful, and I hope it gives you a good idea of one case study of what you can use your journal and the Minimalist Journaling System for. And I wish you an amazing day. If you have any questions, let me know. And I'm just going to mention that for the next few days, we still have open spaces for our new cohort of the Minimalist Journaling System course, where we're going to basically build your Minimalist Journaling System together with you. And there's some interactive calls and workshops where we're actually going to brainstorm and do it collaboratively, solve any problems you might have. And then there's the whole course as well, with lots of materials, walkthroughs, guides, instructions showing you where to start, how to go about your goal setting, habits, and having a lot of fun with your journal. This is maybe something I would like to end with, the importance of playfulness and experimentation, because this is not a chore. I think if it would feel like a chore, I wouldn't do it. I prefer to have fun, and I think we're all wired a little bit in that way, that when something is hard, we tend to, sometimes consider if we want to do it or not. But adding playfulness to it really can shift everything. And this is what happened for me with habits. When I was a kid or a teenager, building habits felt like a chore and something I must do because, I should be healthy. And right now it's really playful. I'm just playing with my squares, drawing in my journal, making nice cards, exchanging them with Sylvia sometimes, moving things around. And then the results are magical. So yeah, that's it. I wish you a wonderful day, and I hope that was useful. Bye.